structures of some sort. They mean something. Well, you've heard me talk about the communication systems of octopi, that octopi have this very highly evolved nervous system, and all over the surface of their skin there are what are called chromatophores, specialized cells which can change color. And octopi, when they wish to communicate, they have traveling bars, blushes, dots, stripes, all this stuff flowing over the surface of their skin. Well, notice that they become their syntactical intent. That's what's actually happening here. They are not, as we do, our method of communication is to make small mouth noises, which are transduced across space as sound, reconstructed in the brain of the hearer, and then a dictionary is consulted, and the commonest meaning chosen for the incoming sound. As ways of conveying information go, this is what you call a very low-grade signal. It's a miserable way to transfer data. But if you could see what I mean, if I could literally cause my concrescent intention to appear before us and rotate like an object in space, we could take a step forward toward telepathy. Well, in the virtual reality, paint boxes and toolkits are being created in the software realm that will allow people. Jared Lanier, the great brain behind some of this, is interested in what he calls non-symbolic communication. Non-symbolic communication and the more perfect logos of the DMT ecstasis are the same thing. It's a moving, visible modality of intent that you see, you don't hear. So I think the virtual reality opens up the possibility that, my mother used to say, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. I actually look forward to that day. I believe that that's within reach, Anybody else?
What's
Gailanic. It's a term that Riane Eisler introduced in her book, The Chalice and the Blade, and it means related to Gaia, related to the goddess. Have you all read The Chalice and the Blade?
No.
It does all this spade work for me. Riane and I appeared right here a year ago. She's a brilliant woman. She's born in Vienna, an archaeologist, has given her life to understanding Middle Eastern prehistory, the archaeology of it. And it is, when we talk of dominator versus partnership societies, we're using Riane Eisler's words. You see, we want to get completely away from the gender polarity of talking about a matriarchy versus a patriarchy. First of all, there is very little evidence for a true matriarchy. What seems to have happened is that there was this thing called a partnership society, which gave way to male dominance, dominator society. But in the original hunting-gathering thing, that equation was fairly well balanced. The men hunted, the women gathered. There was pressure on the women to develop language. This they did. This allowed them the notion of agriculture and pastoralism and the husbandry of cattle and a cycle of nomadism based on mushroom use, husbandry of cattle, and a mixed hunting and gathering ecology was what existed in Eden, really. And then the story I told you of the drying. If you look at the story of Genesis, it is very clearly the story of a drug bust. I mean, this woman ate of the fruit of the tree of life, and she gave it to her, and then there was this problem. And Jehovah, musing to himself, says, they must not do this, because if they do, they will become as we are. Not it's bad, or it's poisonous, or they'll make themselves sick, but they will become as we are. Well, how plain does it have to be, people? I mean, it's right there, embedded in the ur-text of Western civilization. The story of the woman's fascination with the dimension brought by the plant, and how this had to be suppressed in order that everything could be a bring down for thousands of years.
But Terence,
My dear,
there are I know of two tribes still in existence which are matriarchal in Paraguay.
yes, I think it happens. It's not a hard and fast rule.
But as a matter of fact, they're in terrible trouble if they still exist, because the Amish went in and took them over.
The Amish.
And they were so confused. The last I heard, they were in very bad shape psychologically.
Yes, well, wherever these dominator philosophies have gone, and I wrap monotheism very heavily, but I also think modern science is the bastard child of Christian theology. I mean, all that rummaging around by Thomas Aquinas and Francis Bacon entirely set the stage for modern science. I mean, here is Francis Bacon on nature. Nature must be put on the rack that we may torture from her secrets. This is Francis Bacon, the father of modern science. I mean, is this a dominator, woman-hating, misogynist vision, or what? And this was done, and the secrets were tortured. And now we hold, the power to light the fire of stars on the cities of our enemies. But to what end? Here, this gentleman.
You mentioned traders before when they get into this alternative state. I always saw that as kind of pirates.
Pirates.
Pirates, little pirates.
That's absolutely right on.
And they're very much a competition for ideas. But they never let you kind of keep them. You just kind of get a taste of what this thing could be like.
Well, see, the goal of my life was to escape from the fairy mountain with fairy gold, and I think I did it. I mean, I may be deluded by the time spent in Fairy Mountain, but this time wave thing that I am so concerned to communicate is like a piece of the fairy action. And as to what they took from me for that, I don't know, probably the I Ching. Probably they looked into my head and said, crude, but the workmanship is interesting, a fascinating primitive piece, and made the switcheroo.
So did you feel at all that you were part of their play?
Oh, definitely.
I thought that definitely too. Okay, which leads me to my next question. You mentioned the plant. You alluded to the plant bringing us to consciousness. And the big question to me is why? I mean, why would the plant lead us to consciousness?
Why would it?
Yeah.
Why would the plant call us into consciousness? Well, it's, or maybe you don't know, but in the introduction to the book that Dennis and I wrote on how to grow mushrooms, the mushroom makes a little speech there. It says, "I am old, 50 times older than thought in your species. I come from the stars, yet I've been on Earth for ages," so forth and so on. And there it says, "What you have that I want is hands. You have hands. You can move matter. I am like a cobweb spread through the soil. I am so diaphanous. I touch the earth so lightly." And then why? What are these hands for? Well, then you touch on this peculiar theme in the mushroom, which is its apocalyptic tendencies, its millenarian tendencies. It sees the solar life as circumscribed. It thinks in terms of a galactic radiation of its genes through space and time. It doesn't want to be trapped on one mud ball when the star that it's orbiting goes up. This question of the dynamics of the sun is very interesting. I don't know why, the alien thing that it is, why it would call us